actually on the roof. On the roof of the building we're staying. It's peaceful up here, there's nobody around. There's some music booming out there somewhere. They got some funny trucks that drive around to advertise the Muay Thai fight nights that are basically weekly, and they have a pickup truck with the billboards on the side of it, and they'll have huge speakers booming out some kind of dance beat music to go with Muay Thai tonight, Friday night. I don't realize how annoying it actually is, but they keep doing it. So that's the sound you hear in the background. It's about it, bunch of birds. Anyway, I was going through my, I don't know why, on this iPhone, when I receive an attachment, like a video attachment from someone, I go to play it, and it just has a little, the triangle play thing on the screen with a broken sign through it. Won't play it. And then it gives me the option, download or view. So I'll hit view, it says it's broken, can't play it. So I hit download, then it downloads it to my notes in my phone, and then it'll play. Don't get it. Whatever. So I have a whole bunch of things stacked up in my notes. So I do have this one video I just saw. I honestly don't know which email it came from. I haven't read an email yet where somebody has an explanation for the video, but I thought I'd share the video anyway because I'm trying to clear up some space in my phone. So let's have a look at this video. I don't know what it is, I don't know where it came from, but I have a feeling as I share emails, I'll probably come across the email that was attached to it. So, here we go, let's have a look. Now, I don't know what that was. Looks like there was some color there to it. I haven't a clue. I just looked at it on my phone. I'll probably see it better when I'm on the editing screen of my laptop, but I don't know. I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue. Mystery video. Odd site. I don't know the story behind it. There you go. Shared. Sent to me to be shared. Obviously, I shared it. Now, let's get into some voices to be heard. This is titled Honey Island Swamp Monster and a Child's POV. What our POV is, you're going to find out. I've watched and listened to your videos for a few years now. A week or so ago, you read from someone about the Honey Island Swamp Monster, and I thought to send you something. I was putting it off until my son mentioned something to me today, and I just had to share. I'll try to maintain punctuation for you, but please bear with me because it could be long. Many times I've heard you say not to send separate emails and just include it all in one. And I meant it. Perfect. Thank you. Let me move the camera and get more comfortable for this. Alright, here we go. Oh, this feels good to sound. With a backrest. Before I get to the Honey Island swamp stuff, I'll give you the story from my 12-year-old that finally got me to write you. He lives with his mom in a pretty rural area on the Alabama/Georgia line near the Chattahoochee River. We visit often and have about a 3-hour drive where he has my phone playing music and watching YouTube. When he saw some of the weird things I watch, including your channels, and today told me this story. From what I gather, it was about 2 years ago, so he would have been 10. He isn't supposed to go into the woods alone, but pushes the limits as children do. The area backs into a very large wilderness area with very limited population. One evening, he is a few steps into the woods and sees something, quote, really big, end quote. He didn't say the word monster or Bigfoot, but I don't think he wanted to. Sorry. He said he couldn't move. I think he was just frozen with fear and not this thing controlling him. He said it looked at him and he heard a voice in his head that said, "You're fine, bud, just move along, keep playing." My son tells me, "Dad, it wasn't your voice, but it was exactly the words you would say." He said he just took a few steps out of the woods and headed back to the house. Never saw the thing again. He said he isn't scared to be in the woods because he thinks if we don't have any bad in our hearts, they know and will share the woods with us, and just want us to do the same. Actually kind of beautiful, right? Sounds good to me. Now to my info on the Honey Island Swamp monster. The Honey Island Swamp is a large area on the Louisiana/Mississippi border that is just old, mostly untouched swampland. The Pearl River runs through it and empties into Lake Borgne, B-O-R-G-N-E / the Rigolets / Lake Pontchartrain. Lake Pontchartrain. Pontchartrain. Now, I think it is all actually a wildlife refuge area. There's a couple outfits that do swamp tours for tourists coming in from New Orleans. I think this story was the basis for the old movie Swamp Thing. You can find loads of info by just searching videos on YouTube. The official stories in the news have two sides that are both believable, but my info has nothing to do with that, and that'll be a plane. But my info has nothing to do with that and come from long before any publicity. On the outskirts of the Mississippi side, there is Stennis Space Center, Stennis Space Center, which could possibly play into the story. The engines / rockets are built near New Orleans, and they barge the things up the Pearl River, and they fire them up and test them at Stennis. Who knows what the heck else they do out there? Research type stuff. I do know the Navy SEALs also do some kind of survival training or something out there. I'm in my 40s, and my family has lived on the Louisiana side of Honey Island Swamp for generations. The old-timers lived and supported their families off of the land. I grew up learning all their ways and spent many days in the swamp running lines and hunting with my grandpa and his brothers. All of them have stories about seeing large upright creatures. My grandpa would say that it can talk to you without talking to you. That was a quote. None had bad experiences, and the story my son told me rang true. They also would say that this is just out there living like us, and if you aren't bothering it, it won't bother you. These were legit, quote, swamp people, end quote, salt of the earth, good people, not capable of telling lies. They know every corner of the swamp and every animal out there. They weren't making up campfire stories or misidentifying some black bear or other rare visiting animal. These were very big, two-legged creatures that lived out there and survived like they did. I never had any visual experiences, but after watching your videos, hearing my son and all these old memories came together, I'm certain I've experienced their presence. As a kid, I would be alone in the swamp and all of a sudden just have the urge to run like hell, almost like I was being pushed out. Maybe it was them. I'm thinking, though, maybe I was too close to their territory or something, but maybe there was something else. Maybe they knew me from being around so much and they were pushing me away from the other sort of danger. My family is still in the area, but none spend the days out there living like they used to do. All the ways of the old timers are unsatiable now. It's a real shame. Taxes, inflation, etc., just make it impossible to survive without becoming part of the rat race. I'm so grateful for the knowledge I have from those early times, and it'll help me protect me and mine when, if the shit hits the fan, and we have to return to the land. I work to pass along those things I learned to my son, and I'm in the process of trying to find a nice-sized area of land of my own in Alabama, Georgia, closer to my son. Considering the state of these things these days, it is damn near impossible to save the amount of money needed to do something like that. And then all the time you have to spend killing yourself for the man in order to support your family and survive in the meantime makes it feel like it'll never happen. I think that's what they want, though. I won't let them win. I'd rather get some land mingle with the sabe while I'm out there. Really living, only if I have to. Keep it up, man. Love what you're doing. P.S. Forgot to mention something else the old timers swear they saw. To this day, my dad will also tell the story and swear by the time he saw a very large black panther at less than 50 feet. This is something else official, smart people consistently say doesn't exist. All my relatives have seen one out here over the last few generations that I have talked to. They all have stories and they all know what a house cat, bobcat, bear hog, whatever else looks like. These people know the wild animals of the swamp and say this is a black cat with a long tail. Way too big to be a house cat or a bobcat. I've heard people in other areas / states say they say the same thing and are told there is no such thing as a melanistic panther. It doesn't exist. How can so many people be wrong or be lying? I'm on the side of the real people and not the quote smart end quote people that try to tell us what they want us to believe about our planet. End of story. There you go. There's some patterns in there that we've realized, right? Through listening to each other. But the creepy thing is, how can it speak to one of our children using the voice of the parent? That's a little alarming. The panther thing, I can touch in on that. I know someone who has seen one in Tennessee, and very avid, keen, experienced hunter, seen one. And this is what I know about cats. I know for me that I trapped a lot of wolves over the years, right? Baited them in. And big cats here in BC are so easy to bait in, it's silly. Being cougars. So I'd imagine, and I do know that's how they hunt leopards, that's how they hunt lions, that's how they hunt big cats around the globe. So what I'm saying is, to all of you in the South who have seen or know of these big black cats, commonly, bait them in. Put some trail cameras up and bait them in. Put the cameras up on a 45-degree angle from the bait and angle it down so they don't see it head on. That's what I do. And throw 2 cameras on a bait pile, keep baiting it. You'll get them. If you're living near where there's a lot of sightings of the black cats, you'll get them on the camera. Now, the background sound, I'm sure it's not bothering you guys. I know it, but it just kind of irritates me sometimes. Quick note on the cost of things. Get this one. So you know, at home we've got what? A regular plastic bottle of water costs, I don't know about anywhere else, but in British Columbia it'll run you anywhere from $2 to $2.50. You get into where there's expensive hotels or the ski area, they're gonna zip you $5 frickin' for a plastic bottle of water. Guess how much they are here? 10 baht. So 10 baht, 27, so that is just over 50 cents. Same bottles. What's up with that? Here's another thing. As we live in the so-called modern countries, right? Get this one. We are eating, every day we go down to this local market and we'll have our choice of squid or shrimp or chicken stuffed gyoza, cooked and handmade fresh on the spot. And you get a tray of 6 of those for just under $2. We'll get fresh cooked fish, fresh vegetables, fresh pork if you want it, fresh chicken, fresh vegetables, let's say that again, fresh rice dishes, curries, pad thai, which is delicious. And we feed ourselves easily very healthy food for just over $6 each. That's it. That's damn near the price of a plastic bottle of water at home. What's up with our countries and governments, right? Isn't that nasty? Anyway, I'll bite my lip before I get on the topic of our absolute failure Western governments. Absolute failures. Criminals, pieces of shit. Okay, what's this? This is titled Follow-Up to the Marine Camping near Mount Shasta. Hello, Steve. I'm the former paramedic who wrote in about near-death experiences and how it opens your mind to see things differently. I mentioned the setting I had in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Susanville when I was 11. Recently, you read a story from a man that was camping in a Forest Service guard station near Mount Shasta. I know the area well, as I used to hunt the valley between Mount Shasta and Mount Lawson, Lassen, near the community of Burney Falls. In fact, that was the location where I first heard the samurai chatter / language. I'll talk about that in a bit. But first, a little information about this area. Mount Shasta has a long history of weirdness, strange lights, UFOs, underground bases, monsters, etc. The area between Mount Shasta and Mount Lawson is old lava beds, cinder cone volcanoes, lakes, thick forests, and not very many people. In fact, the organization called Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI for short, has its main satellite dish array in that valley because of the lack of electronic interference in that area. Everyone in the area also thinks it is there because of the things happening at Mount Shasta. Anyway, to the gentleman that wrote in, you're not crazy. That whole area is a hotbed of activity. Now, my encounter in that area. My friend and I went on one last hunting trip to that area in September of 2001, just after 9/11. I was moving to Montana in November and wanted to get out of there one more time. I wanted to get out there one more time. We drove into this small lake up in the mountains. There's only one unmaintained dirt road in, and it ended at the lake near the small dam. The rest of the lake just backed up to wilderness with no roads or houses for at least 30 miles. We were the only people there. We set up camp, had lunch, then decided to take our rifles and walk the perimeter of the lake to look for tracks to see if the deer, black-tailed deer in this area, were coming in to get water and find the trails. It was still fairly warm in September here, probably in the mid-70s during the day, and where there was a water source, there were deer. The lake was egg-shaped, with the far end getting narrow and shallow with willows and marsh-like area. Total distance around the lake was maybe 1.5 to 2 miles. We got to the far side and we're finding all kinds of trails, deer and black bear tracks everywhere. And all of a sudden, from across the lake, maybe 200 yards away in the willows, something started yelling at us. I can't say it was one of those bone-rattling screams, but it was loud, but not deafening, wildly changing in pitch from low to high, and seemed to sound like language, with syllables and pauses between words. My friend and I, both avid outdoorsmen, just stopped, stared, and then looked at each other while this thing went on for maybe 15 to 20 seconds. I quickly slung my rifle over my shoulder and raised the binoculars I had on a chest harness. I couldn't see anything but willows. It stopped yelling. I felt like we were being yelled at by some old man to get off of his lawn, LOL. No real fear. We both had fairly powerful rifles. Me a .270 and my friend a .30-06. We talked for a second about going back around the lake the way we came so we wouldn't have to go by that area, but quickly decided to keep going. It was 200 yards across the lake at this point, but about a half-a-mile walk to get there around the shore. We got to that area and even went into the willows to look for tracks, or whatever this thing was, and nothing. The grass was matted down but too thick to leave tracks. The evening hunt was a dud, nothing moving at all. That night we heard coyotes howling, but that was it. Years later, as the internet became more useful, I ran across the famous, quote, Sierra Sounds, end quote, recorded about 150 miles south of where we were. The sound was identical. I'm sure this thing was warning us, I'm sure this thing was warning its friends, or maybe really was yelling at us. That's it for now. I'll write about my Montana encounters later. They aren't very exciting either, but have some useful insights. This next year looks to be a very interesting one. Eyes open, head on a swivel. Have a plan, but most importantly, don't forget to enjoy your time on this rock. It's all about the ride, not the destination. I'm heading to an island off the coast of Panama in a few weeks for sun, fun, fishing, and mental reset. Keep the shiny side up, Bob Hansen. All right, man, appreciate it. And you included a photograph of the area where they have the, whatever they have out for the UFO thing. Probably can't see that, right? That was for the area of the intelligent, extraterrestrial intelligence connecting people, whatever they want to be called. Sorry. All right. Appreciate you sending that in, man. I'm super stoked to hear you're going for a reset. That's what I'm doing. It works for me. I can't leave this shit alone, though. And I'm still finding myself feeling like I can't wait to get home and jump on a plane again and go learn. And I agree, this year's going to be one hell of a year for a lot of people. It's funny, I'm listening to the latest news. I was listening to a podcast today for an hour at the gym earlier, and it's so crazy, the shit they deliver and still deliver through mainstream, right? So what, mainstream told us that Jeffrey Epstein actually got strangled in a federal prison with video surveillance, and the murderer got away with it. And the same people that shared that with us are trying to tell us that they're releasing the name list for the island. Yeah, they're actually gonna release incriminating evidence for all those politicians that got suckered in or in the pockets of the bad guys, right? Yeah, they're actually going to convince the public that at the same time that guy got murdered in a federal prison in front of a video camera, but no evidence. They're going to tell us they're going to release the evidence that was found at the Epstein Island. Yeah. Sure you are. Mainstream. Anyways, I'm babbling. Off topic. This is the title, Here We Go. Hi Steve, my first Sasquatch experience is in 2015 in Mount Shasta. I just read this, didn't I? What? This is a different email. Crazy. And a plane. Hold on a second. Alright, listen to this. My first Sasquatch experience is in 2015 at Mount Shasta. I arrived at the Treehouse Hotel at about 9 p.m. on a dark December night. I was there to attend a conference the next day. I went on the parking lot to get something out of my car. I heard a loud call / yell / scream / howl that felt like it went through my skin. I've never heard anything like it before or since. I stood there in the dark and knew it was a Sasquatch. Intuitive knowings are part of life that I have learned to live with and trust. It didn't sound close. I didn't feel scared. I was in awe of the power of the great call. When I went back inside, I asked if anyone heard a loud call or yell sound, and nobody had. I've been curious and interested in Sasquatch as long back as I can remember. This experience deepened my interest. I was a few hours from Mount Shasta, so I went back to a couple of times and hiked a few trails, but did not experience anything further of that type there. What I did experience was seeing strange lights in the trees. I didn't know that the lights were a common experience pattern until listening to your email readings. In 2020, I moved to a house in the forest on the edge of a national park in Northern California. I began walking out and hiking on the forestry roads and trails. On one hike on a hot afternoon, I stopped to rest on a tree stump. My dog sat down next to me. After a few minutes, a sound came from behind us down a steep ravine like a loud, low bark / growl by something very big. Again, sorry. How did I lose my spot? Again, it was a sound I've never heard before. My dog jumped under my legs and was shaking. I sat up and tried to figure out what I'd just heard. It happened again, only closer behind me. I stood up and looked quickly into the forest. I didn't see anything or hear anything else. I just headed back home at a fast clip. I told a friend / cattle rancher who's been in the area her whole life and family has been there for generations, and she said, quote, "I've never heard that kind of sound, but we've got wolves here now," end quote. So I figured it was a wolf that didn't like me there. I started looking for wolf tracks and thought I saw some, but wasn't sure. Now I'm not so sure it was a wolf at all. Now I think it was something else. I started noticing things in the forest that I've heard about and read about. Trees broken and bent over at 68 to 10 feet from the ground. oh sorry, at 6, 8, 10 feet from the ground, patterns of sticks and branches. Then I saw a boulder on top of a stump on a very steep grade. I took a picture and have attached it to this email. I began to feel someone was in the forest with me when I was hiking. I started going back to places where I felt a presence. I heard heavy stepping on several occasions, and it didn't sound like the animals I'm familiar with, mainly the heaviness of the steps. I also heard knocking in patterns. I've had small rocks thrown at my windows of my house on several occasions. Red flag. Then once when I was in the place I felt sure I was sensing a Sasquatch, I heard very heavy, slow steps approximately 30 to 40 feet from me. I stopped and focused my vision in the forest in that direction. The steps continued to walk toward me slowly, then stopped. I did not see anything. I tried to notice any scent, but nothing. I also noticed that the normal forest sounds were silent, very strange. I do not feel any of the things some people describe, like being hated and something wanting to kill them. I absolutely believe those folks. I felt safe, and that perhaps this thing is as curious of me as I am of it. At this point, I'm comfortable with the forest people description because that describes what I'm experiencing. The people description helps us understand the differences in experiences. It's like the differences in humans. One bad one doesn't mean they're all bad. The most recent experience was just before Thanksgiving. I was outside in front of my house. I heard clicking and tapping and other sounds I can't describe coming from the trees in the forest just across the road. I stopped what I was doing to listen. I repeated again in the same pattern. It repeated again in the same pattern 2 more times, then stopped. The last time I heard it was just before Christmas. I heard the same pattern of clicks and knocking with other sounds in the same pattern, only in a different part of the forest about 50 miles from my house. Thank you, Steve, for the respect you give. You're making a difference, Chris. Okay, Chris, appreciate you sending that in. It's an odd spot for a big boulder to sit and lay, isn't it? Maybe it's easier if I can do it this way. I don't know if you can see that. I think you can see it. I got too many shadows. But this is going to make it way easier to edit and share. All right, you guys? There we go. Be safe out there. Be safe in your zone. Stay in tune with your gut instincts, right? Stay in tune with yourself. All right, here we go. This one's titled Oregon/California/Nevada. In the Warner Mountains, W-A-R-N-E-R Mountains, where the 3 states intersect, afternoon of the summer, we're driving our Jeep Cherokee, which had a lift and large tires, along a forested road on a hillside. As we were approaching one of those tiny creeks crossing the road with bushes on both sides, I saw the Sasquatch about 30 feet in front of us cross the road in 2 steps and disappeared into the bushes on the uphill side. Neither my husband or son saw it. For my estimate, my Jeep is about 6 feet tall, so it had to be 7 or 8 feet, definitely taller than the Jeep. It was a very brief sighting. Thank you so much for having this place to share with someone who wants to know. I'm now living in the middle of Colorado, and I know they're all around in the mountains here, so I could possibly run into one out there. You can share my name. I already tell my story to lots of people, but most of them are non-believers. I just say, it could happen to you someday too, and then you will believe. Cindy Brock, Howard, Colorado. Short and to the point, eh, Cindy? Appreciate you sending that in. If you ever feel like it one day, you should share with us exactly what you saw. What he looked like, she looked like. Did she look at you? Did he look back at you? Obviously did it on purpose for you guys to see. Obviously. You're right, they are out there. They are out there. Alright, here's another one. It's endless. This is titled, Do Elk Growl? Steve, this experience occurred during the events I've sent in regarding 2017, 2018 in Heppner. We were hunting the last weekend in Heppner. I'm getting sweaty. During the 2017 archery season, Luke and I had scaled a small cliff face above the Ditch Creek Ranger Station following an old hunting trail. We could hear two bulls bugling at each other, one straight ahead and one to our right. We worked our way through the mature timber and blowdown trees to some dog hair at the edge of a small meadow. Same meadow and same hunt, we heard chattering and banging on the trees. As we stood on the dog hair, we chose to let out some cow calls as the bull ahead and the bull to the right were bugling at each other. 1 minute into this intense event, we experienced a growl that we felt in our chests. We thought it was the bull to the right that growled at our presence, but I'm reflecting on this and realizing it doesn't quite add up. I've Googled a bull out growl and it doesn't sound like we heard. What we heard rattled our chests with the tone, and the depth was unlike anything I've ever heard. It sounded like a bear growl, but 5 octaves lower. My question to you, can elk produce a low-frequency bear-like growl that you feel in your chest? I'll never forget this sound. I appreciate your 10 cents on this, Nick Marlowe. Okay, Nick, you already know what it was, dude. Right, you know what it was. And no, they can't. I will say that with confidence. I've hunted and guided elk for a long time. They do growl. When it gets really exciting and tight and you've got a bull screaming his frickin' face off, especially a big mature one, and sometimes 2, even 3 at a time, I've called them in to fight in front of us. The screams and the yells gets the most seasoned hunter adrenaline blasting, but it doesn't physically rattle your chest or your body and doesn't scare you. And it's never described as something I've never heard ever before. Said nobody when they're listening to elk, right? Another thing too, it seems to be, it doesn't matter what state or province or even country, I'm guessing, but the fact of the matter is elk hunters, people hunting elk, people frequenting where there's elk, seem to have a higher chance of having experienced one of these people. Why? Dunno. Is it because they're hunting elk? Maybe. Is it because they have something in common with the elk, with a food source when they're here? Maybe. Dunno. Have they been seen hunting elk? Yep. There's an answer. Have they been seen stealing elk from hunting camps? Yes, they have. Numerous times. So there you go. There you go. No, they do not make a sound that vibrates our chests and our rib cage. They don't. I will say that with absolute confidence. Oh, my butt is on concrete. All right, let's see if I can struggle through maybe one more. What do we got? This is titled Bigfoot. Not too long. Marcus is red. Oh, this is from 2020, February. My name is Stan Snook. I've been a hunter and fisherman and outdoorsman all my life. When I was 25 years old, I was with a friend of mine from church. We went fishing in a place I always wanted to fish. There's a deep canyon between Portland, Oregon and the coast. The bridge passes over this canyon. We pulled off on a side road, parked, and headed down the steep canyon to fish the creek. The tall alder tree canopy covered the view of the bridge above us, though we could hear the cars. The brush was fairly thick, but opened up once we got to the creek. We started catching lots of fish in every hole and pocket. I started working my way down the creek. We were about 50 yards apart. I was having a blast. And all of a sudden, I had the strangest, overwhelming feel I was being watched. I've hunted wounded bear in thick brush, seen mountain lions. The feeling I had then was nothing like that. It was overwhelming feeling I was not to be there and to get out. I said nothing to my friend, but walked back towards him. When we were about 10 yards apart, he said to me, "You're feeling it too, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Let's just get out of here." We drove an hour to get there, 20 minutes to hike down and fish maybe 15 minutes. I'd heard about Bigfoot before, but never really thought about it. Not even then. But looking back now, some 40 plus years later, in my heart of hearts, I know I was being watched by one. My friend and I have never talked about it again. Odd, but a pattern. Odd but common, unfortunately, don't know why. A few years later, we moved to Montana. Before I was married, my wife saw one driving down Provo Canyon in Utah on a date. Provo. That sounds familiar. With sightings. I think there's a video from there, isn't there? She did not know what she had seen. She'd never heard of them before. It was not until the next day on the news she discovered that several people had called it in that they had seen one. That was the first she ever knew of them. I had a business in Montana and several employees. One was a kid that I half-raised. My boys used to camp up the 9 Mile Valley west of Missoula, Montana, almost every weekend in good weather. Even in the early fall with snow. But we moved to Helena, 3 hours away, and he followed and worked for me. One weekend on his time off, he drove back to Missoula, caught up with a friend, then went walking up the head end of the 9 Mile Valley. It was behind a closed gates road, and there was a foot of snow on the ground. When they were about a half mile in on this road, they came across some tracks in the snow. This kid is 6'3" tall, his shoe size is 13. These were barefoot prints, and his boot in the track was at least 5 to 6 inches longer than his boot. The gate was about 6 feet between steps. Keep in mind, he's camped in these woods all his life. Never believed in Bigfoot. Even laughed at my wife when she said she had told them she had seen one. He said he looked at those footprints and fear overcame him. He knew they were real. No other explanation could explain what he was seeing and looking at. They got the heck out of there. He came back and showed me the pictures. He hasn't camped in the woods or hunted since. I personally talked to others who have seen them too. Nothing to gain from telling their story, but to be ridiculed. What you're doing is a great thing. While I've personally never seen one, I know they exist. It's a shame people never saw it or asked for these experiences or scoffed at because they simply tell their stories. I'm with you. I think there's thousands afraid to even talk about it for fear of ridicule. Very sad. Keep up the good work. There you go. Thanks, Stan. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. So there you go. More first-hand experiences, right? Oh, here's a book. A book with a picture of what they saw in the window. Creepy. I'll save this for another day. Oh, they got a few pictures. All right. Lots of pictures. I'll do this one. I'll try to do this one tomorrow. So to make sure I do that, I will put a number 1 beside it, which puts it at the top of the list. And that'll be shared tomorrow. We've got so many. There you go. I wonder how many of you out there are listening and taking notes and discovering, learning, marking things down for yourselves and putting your puzzle together, as opposed to people just sitting here gazing at the screen and getting entertained and leaving and doing shit for themselves. And that's not being insulting. I hope that people are putting together all these patterns and figuring shit out, asking questions, speaking out loud, getting more people around them and their communities or wherever to speak a matter-of-factly, honestly about what they've seen without asking to see it, right? Wonder how many of you are doing that. Anyway, there's a few things I was going to touch on today, unrelated, but I'll save that for another time because it'll just get me ranting. During my reset timeout, jumping out of my bubble and looking in, but unfortunately when you do that, you also look in on your home country's bubble, and you feel anger and shame and frustration. Apparently the German farmers are creating quite the protest for themselves over there in Germany. Thank God for them. I hope they succeed. And they're being possibly labeled as racists and extremists, right? Just like the Canadian leader did to the people of Canada. Anyway, I'm babbling. I better stop. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Right, you guys? Keep the knowledge flowing. If you want to share it with the people through me, through this channel, send it away. It'll get shared word for word. On that note, I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm so sweaty, it's so freaking sticky. I'll be back tomorrow. Guaranteed.